Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. And oh, yes, it is breakfast time. And the breakfast of champions? Milton's gluten-free crackers. Now, I'm not gluten-free, true confession. In fact, I've never found a gluten I didn't like. But these crackers are the best crackers you can get, regardless. And they don't pay me to say that. I wish they did, but they don't. They're just that good. And as for the tuna, I've told you my tunas before, but this is hard to get. The best tuna you can ever find, short of catching that little puppy in the ocean and eating it straight. This is white tuna, Bonito del Norte in olive oil, caught by Hijos, the sons of Hijos de Jose Serrats. It's a Spanish line-caught tuna. Now, why on earth am I talking to you about that on a day that I'm speaking about what it means to be made in the image of God? Genesis 1:26 and 27 says God made humanity in his image. And if you lived in the time of Moses and you got that story, the creation story, I want to tell you something it would mean to you that perhaps slips our knowledge today. It's an important aspect of being made in the image of God as related by that Genesis 1 story. Here it is. Back in the ancient days, in the ancient Near East, Egypt and Mesopotamia and those areas, when a king conquered a land and made it his own, the king would set up a stone or would set up some insignia, some representation of the king saying, I have dominion here. This is mine. It's under my control. So a reader in the day of Moses, or a listener in the day of Moses, maybe better, would hear this story of God creating the whole cosmos, the heavens and the earth and the waters and all of the creatures and all of the plants. God creates everything and then says, we're going to stick humanity, men and women, right there, bam, as our image. In other words, we are here as an indicator that God has dominion over this space. And more, that we become God's representatives to exhibit and display that dominion. This is something that puts us over, if you will, the animals and the birds and the planet. And it's a great responsibility because it means that you and I should be living our lives to reflect the dominion that God has over this world. Now, that might mean we care about how animals are treated because God certainly does. That might, and by the way, I'm not a vegetarian, obviously, because I do believe that God made animals in part to be foodstuffs for people, and animals are fulfilling their purpose when they do so. But that doesn't mean we treat them poorly. God still cares about that. We treat the planet. This is the basis for Christians being aware and Jews being aware of the ecology of the planet and trying to be responsible. So we do those things, but there's even more to it now because this world is a fallen world. It's a world filled with sin and evil and hatred and bitterness and divisiveness. And you and I are God's representatives to exercise dominion in this world. We're supposed to do something about all of that sin and evil and pain and suffering. If you're a Jewish or Christian surgeon who believes in the scriptures, you should embrace your surgery as a way to help exercise dominion over disease and pain. Whatever your vocation, you should find a way to use today to make the world a better place. That's your responsibility. That's part of what it means to be made in the image of God. Chew on that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it is your video thought for today?